You found the podcast, Go Beyond the Brief, where we take a deep dive into the societal currents shaping our lives. Together, we'll explore the often unseen forces at play. We'll examine the research, dissect the data, and most importantly, if you're seeking to understand what's shaping our society,
and today,
this
we're
is the
jumping into
place.
something pretty heated in education. Oklahoma's new America First teacher test.
Yeah, it's definitely landed right in the middle of the national conversation.
We've got articles, some research data, notes. Our job is to unpack what this policy actually is, why it's causing such a fuss, and maybe what it means longer term.
It's become a real flashpoint, you know. Strong feelings on both sides.
Okay, so let's get straight to it. What is this test? What are the sources telling us about its nuts and bolts?
Well, fundamentally, it's a new 50-question exam. But here's the thing. It's mandatory only for out-of-state teachers applying from New York and California.
Just those two states. That's specific.
Very specific. And the State Department of Education there didn't create it alone. They actually partnered with PragerU.
PragerU, the conservative nonprofit. That partnership itself seems pretty noteworthy.
It definitely is. It signals a lot about the test's likely perspective.
And Superintendent Ryan Walters, he's been pretty clear on the why, hasn't he? How is his reasoning presented?
He frames it very directly. He talks about safeguarding classrooms, protecting them from, quote, radical leftist ideology and woke indoctrination.
Safeguarding. Okay. And does the test content line up with that framing?
Seems to. Reports say it includes questions on things like, well, contested theories about the 2020 presidential election, gender ideology, American exceptionalism.
Wow.
And even biological differences between boys and girls. So, yeah, it's pretty specific.
So it's not just like a civics test. It feels very targeted.
Yeah.
And having PragerU involved, critics are calling it political performance, right? Not a real standard.
Exactly. They argue a private partisan group is essentially acting as a state gatekeeper for who gets to teach. It really blurs the lines.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even contradictory. Oklahoma has a major teacher shortage.
Oh, absolutely. It's severe.
The turnover rate, according to the sources, hit 24% in 2022. That's a decade high. They're issuing record numbers of emergency certifications.
Yeah, people teaching on emergency licenses because they can't find fully certified teachers.
So with that backdrop, how does this America First test make any sense? How does it fit in?
Well, this is where you get these really competing stories. Critics obviously say, look, Oklahoma teacher pay is near the bottom nationally, nominally speaking. That's why people leave or don't come.
Right, the low salary argument.
But then proponents, often from conservative think tanks, they push back. They say, hang on, adjust for Oklahoma's low cost of living.
Ah, the purchasing power argument.
Exactly. And when you do that, they argue, Oklahoma's average salary actually looks much more competitive, like maybe around 29th nationally.
Yep.
Comparable buying power, they say, to New York or Hawaii. That's quite a different picture. But does it hold water if teachers are still leaving and they need emergency hires? And what about the test itself? Critics call it a huge turnoff, right? They do. They think it'll scare qualified teachers away. But Superintendent Walters claims the opposite. He says it's attracting teachers, a dramatic increase even, who are, quote, fleeing the teachers' unions elsewhere.
So completely opposite predictions about its effect on the shortage. Fascinating.
It really is. And this whole situation, it immediately brings up legal questions. Big ones.
Okay, let's talk legal. What are the main vulnerabilities people are pointing to? What should you, the listener, know about these challenges?
Two main constitutional arguments are expected. First, the First Amendment. Opponents see this test as basically an ideological loyalty oath.
You have to agree with certain ideas to teach.
That's the argument, that it chills free speech and thought. Second is the Dormant Commerce Clause. Now, this basically stops states from discriminating against people or businesses from other states unfairly.
And since this test specifically targets New York and California.
Bingo! That's seen as a direct violation of that clause. It looks like economic protectionism or targeted discrimination.
And Oklahoma has faced similar legal fights before, haven't they?
Yes, the sources mention an ongoing ACLU lawsuit over HB 1775. That's a law restricting race and gender discussions in class. A federal court already put parts of it on hold,
citing a chilling effect on speech. So there's precedent for courts intervening on these grounds.
There is. And you hear critics, unions, lawmakers repeatedly calling this test a stunt or political posturing. They see it as part of that same pattern.
So it feels less like an education
Definitely.
policy.
It's a
more
clear
like-
example of a wider multi-state movement. Look at Florida, new laws there pushing for a uniform curriculum, a teacher excellence exam.
And wasn't there something about identity politics in Florida?
Exactly. Prohibiting identity politics in teacher training. That term itself is often loaded, used to critique discussions on race, gender, social justice.
So it affects not just what's taught, but how teachers are even trained to think about society.
Precisely. And then there's Texas. They passed a law removing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion activism from public higher education.
So that means curriculum reviews for ideological bias.
Yes, and that term bias can be very subjective. It also impacts hiring, support services, the whole campus climate aimed at inclusivity. It's quite systematic.
And Arizona had that bill, even though it was vetoed, making teachers personally liable.
Yeah, for creating a hostile education environment shows how far some of these efforts are going, trying to police individual speech in the classroom.
So stepping back, what does all this trend actually mean for the education system as a whole?
That's the big question, isn't it? There's this fundamental tension now between kind of political messaging and practical governing.
How so?
Well, critics are pointing out quite forcefully that these policies could deter good teachers, making those shortages we talked about even worse.
Right, driving qualified people away.
And organizations like the National Council for the Social Studies, they've said plainly that putting an ideology test on teaching goes against democratic principles, against academic freedom.
It really boils down to a struggle over the purpose of education itself, doesn't it?
I think so. Is school about transmitting one specific, maybe triumphant national story? Or is it about fostering critical thinking, letting students evaluate different perspectives?
And there's that Brookings poll showing a disconnect, right? Many Republicans think schools lean liberal, but students mostly say it's neutral.
Exactly. That perception gap fuels a lot of this legislative action, even if the reality on the ground, according to students, is different.
So it seems we're in a new phase. Education becoming increasingly politicized.
Yes, and likely an enduring one, where, in some states at least, ideological alignment seems to be getting prioritized, sometimes over professional competence.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, whether you're a student, parent, educator, just someone who cares about schools?
Yeah, how does this shift ultimately shape not just what children learn, but maybe more importantly, how they learn to think?
Or even if they're encouraged to think critically at all, that
Yeah.
feels like a really critical question for the future, for democratic principles, really. Something to keep thinking about.